Matthew 27. Jesus is on the cross, and the crowd around the cross is not just Pharisees, Sadducees, teachers of the law, scribes, but they are there. And they mocked him. I stopped last time in verse 40 when they said, "If you are the Son of God." I mean, those are exact words of Satan when he tempted Jesus in the wilderness. I mean, he speaks through these people. Verse 41, in the same way, the chief priests, the teachers of the law, and the elders mocked him. I mean, it's this whole mocking thing. I don't know about you. I'm pretty sure, though, you're like me in that I don't like to be mocked. I don't like to be made fun of. Happens. Well, okay. This is how they mocked him in verse 42. He saved others, they said, but he can't save himself. He's the King of Israel. Let him come down from the cross now and we'll believe in him. He trusts in God. Let God rescue him now if he wants him, for he said, "I am the Son of God." In the same way, the rebels who were crucified with him also heaped insults on him. I think of it today as Good Friday, but on that Friday was black. In fact, verse 45, from noon until 3 in the afternoon, darkness came over all the land. I don't mean, big heavy cloud cover. I take from this, it was dark as night. About 3 in the afternoon, Jesus cried out in a loud voice, "Eloi, Eloi, lema sabachthani," which means, my God, why have you forsaken me?" This is a direct quote from Psalm 22. If you read through the Psalms and you get to Psalm 22, you don't have to be a Bible scholar. You don't have to know anything about Bible history or Bible background to realize that psalm was written about a crucifixion, and the more you read it, the more you realize this was a psalm written prophetically about the crucifixion of Jesus. I think Jesus was quoting Psalm 22, although I don't think at that point in time would have been called Psalm 22, because the chapter divisions they came later. Well, however, I will say that emotion that Jesus felt in that moment, I don't know that there are better words to describe it. My God, why have you forsaken me? Well, think about this in a lot of different ways. One way is God never forsook Jesus. There's some people who say, in that day on the cross, God turned away from Jesus. I don't think he did. And I got several reasons why. I'm not going to bore you with what I think those reasons are. I will just say, Jesus felt abandoned. Jesus felt forsaken. Felt. Was he? I mean, was that the true reality? Have you ever been so overcome with emotions like this that they become your reality? I kind of have. I think of Jesus in this moment. Maybe in that moment he was more man than in any other moment of his earthly life. I don't think he was not God. I think he remained. But that emotion of abandonment, of feeling forsaken, that's not a uncommon emotion. That's a universal experience for people. I think the Hebrew writer says that Jesus was tempted in all ways just like we are, and yet without sin. Yeah. He felt the things that we feel, even the extreme things. Verse 47, when some of those standing there heard this, they said, he's calling Elijah. Which, honestly, that they had misunderstood him. They hadn't been, I don't think people were listening very closely to Jesus anyway. You know? Okay. All right. He's calling Elijah. Verse 48, immediately one of them ran and got a sponge. He filled it with wine vinegar and put it on a staff and offered it to Jesus to drink. The rest said, now leave him alone. Let's see if Elijah comes to save him. Wow. These were hardened people. Verse 50, when Jesus had cried out again in a loud voice, he gave up his spirit. There's so much to that. He gave it up. Nobody took his life from him. He gave his life. He willingly gave his life, and he gave up his spirit. At verse 51, at that moment, the curtain of the temple was torn in two from top to bottom. This is hugely significant and symbolic. In the temple, you had what's the word I want to use? Discreetly separated parts of the temple. One was the courtyard. Anybody could come there except for Gentiles. There was a courtyard of the Gentiles even farther out. Any Jew could enter the courtyard. And then behind that was the holy place. And only Levites and priests could go there. And there was then between the holy place and behind it the most holy place, which is where that was the holiest. In fact, another term for it was the Holy of Holies, the holiest place on earth, where the Ark of the Covenant would have been. There was a curtain that separated the holy place from the holiest, the Holy of Holies, the holiest place. When Jesus gave up his spirit, the old King James says he gave up the ghost. That curtain that separated God from the rest was torn in two from top to bottom. What was the symbol of that? Well, it's not rocket science, and it's not ethereal theology either. This is a symbol of the fact that because of Jesus' death, there was now no separation between God and man. He then, from that point forward, was accessible to all men. Well, that's not all that happened. uh, the temple, the curtain at the temple was torn in two from top to bottom. I even think from top to bottom is significant, because if from bottom to top, somebody else could have done, but from top to bottom, no. The earth shook, an earthquake, the rocks split, and the tombs broke open. This was not like a secret thing, a hidden thing. And listen to this, the last part of verse 52. The bodies of many holy people who had died were raised to life. What? I mean, okay, the graves were cracked open, and people, holy people, started leaving. We don't know who. We don't know the names. But the bodies of many holy people who had died were raised to life. They came out of their tombs after Jesus' resurrection and went into the holy city and appeared to many people. As though this wasn't a secret thing. This was highly visible in the most significant city in all of Israel, in Jerusalem. Evidently, we got two separate things here. When this earthquake happened, as Jesus died, the tombs, rocks were split and tombs broken open. Now, I don't know, did these people come out right then out of the tombs? I don't know. What I do know is that after Jesus' resurrection, they went to the holy city and appeared to many people. This is verifiable, in other words. Verse 54, when the centurion and those with him who were guarding Jesus saw the earthquake and all that had happened, they were terrified. Well, yeah, and exclaimed, surely he was the Son of God. Verse 55, many women were there watching from a distance that had followed Jesus from Galilee to care for his needs. Among them were Mary Magdalene, Mary the mother of James and Joseph, and the mother of Zebedee's sons. From John's gospel, we know that Jesus' mother, Mary, was also at the foot of the cross. In other words, his death was verifiable by many people. There's a theory, it's called the swoon theory, that Jesus never really died. He simply swooned and he appeared to be dead. Several reasons why that's I'm going to say ridiculous theory. One of them is there were too many people there at the cross, including Roman soldiers who knew a dead body when they saw it. And the other is there were these women who had followed Jesus. They were providing for his needs, his and the disciples. The swoon theory is a poorly constructed theory, and its only purpose is to discredit the veracity of the gospel accounts of Jesus' death. And if you can discredit that he wasn't truly dead, then there was no true resurrection. Well, to me it's ridiculous. As evening approached, there came a rich man from Arimathea named Joseph, who had himself become a disciple of Jesus. We also know that Joseph of Arimathea was accompanied by, who we assume was a friend of his, Nicodemus, who had come to Jesus, and we have the record of this in John chapter 3. It was a gutsy thing for Joseph to do. We're going to see why next time on So Care with Stevie Boy.